Hey, Laura here from The Unprofessional, and today I'm going to show you how I'm going to make a portable pegboard to use as a display at a pop-up shop or a holiday market. So this is a really easy concept, to be honest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a plywood pegboard, which I'll show you how to make, and then it's going to sit in a 2x4 that is going to be clamped to any tabletop, and it's going to have a channel in it so I can just slide it right in. I'm actually going to make a pegboard right now that is 4 feet across by 2 feet high, and it's going to hold all my fun goods for my first pop-up ever, which is going to be in DC in a week from now, so I better get started. My dog wants it. I started by cutting down 1/2-inch plywood on my table saw. Now you can buy your plywood pre-cut and just save yourself this step. Next, I marked out where I wanted my 1-inch holes. I knew that I wanted to start the holes 2 inches from each edge, so I marked that first. I decided to space the holes 4 inches apart from the center of the hole, not from the edge of the hole, which will give me a board that is 6 holes by 12 holes, or 72 holes total. I marked the 4-inch segments on all sides, then I connected the lines to make a grid. Here's my grid. Now next step is to put a hole centered at each cross section. My first plan was to drill small pilot holes in each cross section, which worked great for centering the 1-inch Forstner bit. But it took a long time and I'm a little bit lazy, so I ended up just skipping that step and being really careful to center the Forstner bit for each hole. I used a brand new Forstner bit, and I think this was key in why I didn't have any tear out, not on the front and really not on the back either. It worked great. Because the bit is flat all around, it was pretty easy to drill straight holes. Not perfect by any means, but this is a plywood pegboard, so it's about as good as it gets. Once all the holes were drilled, I gave the board a light sanding, which cleaned it up and removed all of the pencil lines. I sanded the edge and the back, but keep in mind that I'm intentionally leaving this unfinished, so I'm not too worried about little imperfections. To make the stand, I cut a channel into a 2x4 that I cut to the same length as my panel. I used a router and a 1/2-inch routing bit. Honestly, I think if I were to do this again, I would just do a few passes on my table saw. To make the pegs, I used a 1-inch dowel and cut it into 6, 4, and 2-inch segments. Think about how you plan to use your board when deciding on the peg lengths. For the shelves, I make the pegs the same length as the depth of the shelves, which helps with stability. I only sand the rough edges slightly. You really don't want to sand the pegs or they won't be tight in the holes. Then I made a few shelf options with the leftover plywood. Once I had this round of materials cut, I couldn't help myself and I had to try it out in the pegboard. And fortunately, everything worked out exactly as I had expected. Now that my horizontal option was complete, I moved on to the vertical display. I had some scrap 1-inch pine that I cut into even sections. I knew I wanted to round the tops, so I took a really bizarre approach and used a piece of chain with a screw attached to my workbench. It was effective, but I don't recommend this approach. If you don't magically have a chain literally next to your workbench, I would probably use a string or something different. With the shape outlined, I just used a jigsaw to cut it out, and then I traced that onto the other piece and had the shape of my feet. I drew a line down the center of one of the feet and decided how far to cut the grooves for the pegboard to sit in. I used the same 1/2-inch router bit and cut a groove in the first one, then used that as my template for the second foot. It's important to make these the same, otherwise your board will sit crooked. With the feet ready, I placed them evenly on the board and used a square to trace both sides of the feet. This is to create a groove in the board to lock the feet in place. Otherwise, the feet wiggle and the board won't be as sturdy. I drilled pilot holes at the end of the grooves and used a jigsaw to cut out both grooves. Yes, this will leave 2 gaps in your pegboard when you display it horizontally, but with smart shelf placement, you can easily cover it up. Okay, so what if you don't want to do the horizontal display and you want to go vertical instead? I've got my 2 feet. Let's see if this works. I still need to sand them, but it's got some lines on there, but that's okay. 1 foot. Just another foot. That's for the outtakes. There we go, there's one. There is the other one. So now we can do horizontal or vertical display. I think it looks great. It's sturdy. Let's see what it looks like if I put a couple of these in here. It's super easy to put together. Look at that. Mwah. Very last thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to make something that I can stick in. So I'm going to drill a hole in the back of this 2x4 all the way through so I can stick this dowel in. There's going to be one on the other side. That way we can hang a banner. We could clip pictures, prices, whatever we want to do. And it's also going to provide just a little bit of extra support for this pegboard right here. So that was my last thing to do. To do this style of banner holder, sand the end of your dowels so that they can be removed from the 2x4 easily. Otherwise they get stuck. I put little eye hooks on the top of the dowels and bracket guides at the top of the pegboard just for a little extra stability. With the board in the channel, I drop the dowels through the bracket guides at the top of the pegboard and into the holes. This gives me the option to add a banner anytime I want one, but I don't have to use this if I don't feel like I need it. And that is how I turn these materials into this, and ultimately this. You could mount this pegboard directly to a wall with a French cleat or a spacer. I'm using it as a portable display, but really the options are endless with this type of pegboard. Hey, this is Laura from The Unprofessional. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. And if you like this content, you can head over to my website, theunprofessional.com, for more.